Cop finds pregnant mom and toddler asleep on sidewalk. What he did next will shock you. Life is not always an easy path. Sometimes we will have to make extremely difficult decisions, leaving behind everything that was known and comfortable to us. Decisions that also entail a risk to other people's lives and happiness, but that will allow us to move forward to survive. Today's story tells us one of those situations in which what is right and what is necessary became two sides of the same coin, making it impossible to stand still and wait for someone else to make the decision for us. Tommy Norman was a respected 42-year-old Arkansas police officer. He was a humble and kind man, held in high regard by all who knew him, and valued the way he cared for the safety of all the citizens of North Little Rock through his superb work as a police officer. Tommy was born and raised in Little Rock, but his family was not. His grandparents migrated from the hot state of New Mexico to Arkansas during the 20s, a time when it was difficult to find steady work in the more rural areas of the country, and even more so if you were trying to make your way in the restaurant industry. When his grandparents arrived in North Little Rock, they barely had enough money to survive, so they had to start building their dreams from scratch and take low-paying jobs to get by. It wasn't easy and they had to fight hard to achieve their dream, but 5 years after leaving their home and family, Tommy's grandparents founded what is still considered one of the top 10 steakhouses in the state of Arkansas, the Grandma's Brazil. The rotisserie was a real success that managed to lift the whole family out of absolute poverty. It became the family business, and when his grandparents retired, his parents took over the restaurant, maintaining the good reputation that preceded it. However, both Tommy's parents and he never felt superior to anyone, and perhaps that was one of the keys to their success and why they were so well liked by the community. The Normans were known for the exquisiteness of their food, but above all for the great warmth and humility they gave to all their guests. Values that their parents made sure to pass on to Tommy and his two younger siblings, Jordan and Meredith. So we could say that much of the goodness that the police officer exudes and that has earned them the trust of everyone who knows him is thanks to his family and his excellent education. Although to say that would not do justice to the excellent work Tommy has done during his more than 20 years as a police captain. His family is an essential pillar in his life, and despite not having counted with a tradition and continuing to work in the family restaurant together with his parents and siblings, Tommy never felt alone and had all the support of his loved ones to fulfill his great dream to become a good policeman. During his years of service, Tommy achieved great accomplishments for his community, including the capture of a dangerous rapist who terrorized young teenage girls in the city, accumulating up to 8 rape victims until his arrest, the detection and eradication of a large marijuana trafficking gang, and having actively contributed to putting an end to the street crime and reducing the number of local robberies to practically zero. And perhaps it was his heavy involvement with the police force that caused the officer's personal life to be so void of love and social engagements. Throughout his life, he had several love affairs, but none lasted long enough to become serious. Thus, Tommy reached his 40s single and childless, something that for many might be a cause for sadness or concern, but not for him. Tommy never felt he lacked for anything. Don't you regret not getting married, starting a family, and raising your children as lovingly as your parents raised you? His brigade buddy Steve once asked him. They graduated the same year, and from the time they joined the police force, they became great friends. They told each other everything and could always count on each other. You know the answer to that question, Steve. My wife is my job. Being a cop will be my way of improving the world and leaving a legacy, not through my children. My brothers have already taken care of that, and the truth is they're doing really well. I feel at peace with the life I have. That's enough for me, Tommy explained calmly. The policeman was very clear about what he wanted in life and was used to answering questions that kind. There's no better cop than you, my friend, and you know why? Because no one's main priorities in life is to be a cop. Not even me, being a father of 2 girls and married, but you have a clear mind to do the best at your job. I admire you very much for that, Tommy. Although you know I'd love it if you also had time for love and a good time once in a while, Steve told him amused while they were getting ready to finish their shift and go home after being on duty every night. And it was precisely while he was working on doing what he loved most in life when Tommy encountered an event that broke his heart. The event for which we're telling you this story and which proved once again the worth of this policeman as a law enforcement officer and as a human being. It all happened one cold night in March during a simple night patrol when police officer Tommy Norman suddenly came across a sight he'd never seen before. It was 10 o'clock at night and the officer was patrolling a busy area of the city. He was used to passing through that area on a daily basis, but he never thought he'd find a mother sleeping on the sidewalk with her young daughter leaning on her chest. Seeing that woman and her daughter all alone in the middle of the night and without any shelter, the officer knew he had to do something to help them. As he got closer, Officer Norman could see the mother was pregnant, about 7 or 8 months, and that she was there all alone with her daughter and an empty stroller next to her. Tommy became very concerned and began to ask himself questions. Why was a pregnant mother and her child sleeping on the sidewalk next to such a busy street? Was someone chasing her? Was this mother just another victim of abuse, and was she just looking for a place to be away from her abuser? Whatever the answer was, he was determined to find out, and he had to do it quickly. Excuse me, ma'am, are you all right? Is there anything I can help you with? It's getting very cold, and you and your little girl shouldn't be out here in the middle of the street, the officer suggested gently to the young mother. Hearing him speak, the woman woke up frightened and thought she'd gotten into trouble. Tommy took it upon himself to reassure her and let her know that he only wanted to help her and she'd done nothing wrong. "Are you gonna take me to jail? I beg you, have mercy on me and my girl, officer. We're here for a good reason, I can tell you that," said the frightened mother, holding her daughter tightly to her chest. "Of course, you can explain it to me, don't worry. I'm here to help, not to punish you. You did nothing wrong. Please tell me what happened and I'll see if I can do anything to help." The policeman calmly soothed her as he sat down next to her. It turns out the young mother's name was Jessica and she was 9 months pregnant. Jessica was also the mother of 2-year-old Kayla, who was sleeping on her chest, oblivious to everything going on around her. The young woman was about to give birth to her second child, Xavier, and could go into labor any day now. "I don't know when it'll be, but the doctor told me it could be any time. Today, tomorrow, I don't know. I just want my children to be well and away from that demon who made our lives impossible." Jessica's expression had changed when referring to this person who was supposedly causing them problems. Tommy realized this was the reason for everything and wanted to know more. "Who do you mean when you say demon? Who's making life miserable for them, Jessica? You can tell me, don't worry, we'll protect you." The policeman was getting impatient and needed to know what was really going on in order to act accordingly. When Jessica told him why she and Kayla were sleeping on the sidewalk, Tommy felt his heart break and a deep sadness wash over him. Jessica was a young mother of only 24, but she'd already been suffering abuse in her marriage for several years at the hands of her husband, Stephen Walker. As she spoke, Tommy took a better look at her and could see the bruise marks peeking out from under her clothes. He shuddered to think of what that poor woman had to endure. She told him that after the last beating, which had taken place just a few weeks ago, she decided the only way to survive and protect her daughter and baby was to run away in the middle of the night. For several weeks, they'd been able to stay in a woman's shelter, but they had overstayed their allowance. The street was their only option, which is why they were there that night. The desperate mother didn't want to risk sleeping on a stranger's porch, fearing that she and little Kayla might get shot by the homeowners. So she decided to lay down on the busy sidewalk, thinking that at least there would be people around, so hopefully nothing bad would happen. "Being in the middle of so many people is my way of keeping myself safe. I know my husband wouldn't dare hit me in public, that's why we're here sleeping, officer. If I had any other choice, I wouldn't be with my 2-year-old daughter in the middle of the street, I assure you," said Jessica, very upset as she hugged her daughter. "You don't have to apologize, Jessica. You're the victim, and the one who should be running away and scared of what might happen to him should be your husband. I assure you that you will be safe now, and neither you nor your children will ever suffer at the hands of that man again. Justice will go after him and protect you, I swear to you," the policeman told her confidently as he mentally drew up a plan to protect Jessica and her children and prevent them from spending another night out in the open. Agent Norman knew he had to help Jessica and Kayla, and he had to hurry because little Xavier could be born at any moment and the little family would need shelter and resources to get through such a traumatic experience. So instead of taking Jessica and Kayla to a homeless shelter where they'd only be given a roof over their heads for one night, Agent Norman decided to check them into a reputable motel. He wanted to give them a safe place to rest and a place to live in the weeks following the birth of the baby Jessica was expecting. "You and your daughter will be safe here. I'm a friend of the motel owner and I assure you that it'll make you feel right at home. You don't have to worry about anything else, Jessica. You're safe now," the agent assured Jessica as he dropped them off at the motel room of a good friend of his. "You're a good man, Agent Norman. I'll never forget what you've done for me and my children. Thank you so much," Jessica told him through tears as she gave him a big hug and said goodbye. After dropping Jessica off at the motel, Tommy thought the best way to get help for them quickly was through a fundraising campaign. Norman didn't usually use social media too much, but he would make an exception for a good cause and to try to get Jessica's story out as far as possible. The next day, the heartbroken agent posted a video on Facebook and Instagram telling the world Jessica and Kayla's heartbreaking story, a sad tale that managed to shock half the world. The video quickly went viral and the internet responded just as the police officer hoped it would. Donations started pouring in from all over the globe. Total strangers donated money, food, and baby supplies. Soon the motel room was filled with boxes and boxes of items. 2 people even donated money for rent, which would allow Jessica and her family to stay in the apartment for more than 6 months. Jessica couldn't believe all that people gave to them without even knowing them. She could only cry with joy and thank Norman for all he'd done for them. A few weeks later, Jessica gave birth to Xavier normally, and after leaving the hospital in perfect health, the 3 members of the family continued to live in the motel while looking for something better. Agent Norman has not left the family's side for a moment, and instead of leaving them alone, he's continued to work to find permanent housing for the mother and her 2 young children, while Jessica does her best to find a job to support her family and start a new life. Meanwhile, Norman and his police colleagues managed to find Jessica's husband and put him in jail without bail. Now the mother and her 2 little ones will be able to sleep without fear and live life in freedom as they deserve. It wasn't easy and they had to suffer a lot, but with the help of a kind and generous police officer and an army of strangers from all over the world, things are now going much better for this precious family. Did you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.